Once broken, forged anew. Warlocks Waffles.
Did you want waffles?
Good morning, all you people out there, and welcome to Warlocks and Waffles, home for the buy one, get one free special on nonsense. Thanks for being here. Junie and I are very tired, and we have been battling the technology this morning.
Yeah. My browser doesn't want me to do this anymore.
Yeah.
My browser's just like, no, you don't have permission to do that. Have you asked your wife? And I'm like, come on. She said it's cool, please. And it's just like, I don't know. I think you're avoiding again. And it's just like, please. Please. I reset the permissions. And then it doesn't matter.
We need a producer. We need an adult. Oh man. Welcome to the show. We are a TTPR BCB EFGH IJK PQRST.
We're an AARP.
We are an AARP fan
podcast.
cast. We talk
As you can
about games, tabletop ones of the role-playing variety. That's what we're here for.
You okay?
Yeah, I'm just tired. How was your week, dude?
I don't remember. But look,
That's
check it out.
I'm gonna drink this strawberry lemonade that I ordered last night and has been sitting on my desk since then.
I'm not judging. I've been there, and I'll be there again.
Ugh. It'd be better with caffeine.
I know that we had a very solid, firm plan of action for today.
As we always do.
And then I said, what if we throw it out the window and just use whatever oh god. Oh, this is good audio right here. It's just Hunter just pouring stuff into a cup. Oh, just the right amount. What if we just talk
Mountain
about
Dew Voltage mixed with strawberry lemonade? Here we go.
That's the thing.
Here we go.
Sponsor us. We just talk about whatever nonsense I'm watching on Netflix, and I'm a fan of the show Too Hot to Handle.
Yes, I saw the new season came out.
Yes,
I heard.
And
so, can I tell you just what I know about it without having?
Tell me
without
whatever
having...
you think. Yeah.
Also, I don't know at what point this show, not Too Hot to Handle, our show. I don't know at what point it became a show where we routinely talk about garbage TV.
That's my fault.
But it comes up a lot, and
that's me.
We do talk about it a lot. So anyway,
I can explain it, but I don't want to.
Here's what I know about the new season. For anybody who doesn't watch Too Hot to Handle, because this is now a Too Hot to Handle fan cast apparently. For anybody who doesn't watch Too Hot to Handle is a show where they trick a bunch of hot, horny people into coming to an island where they think they're just gonna be like having sexy times, and then they're like, just kidding, you don't get to have those. Like no kissing, no hand, like don't do anything. Be good. And then all the people are like, "Oh, but I wanna, but I'm so in need of not doing that."
They are obscenely horny, but their motivation is there's
a lot of money.
There's a lot of money, and there's money deductions for every horny thing that happens.
Correct.
3,000 for a kiss.
Yeah, and they change it up from season to season. Have you watched the
first half of the first season in one sitting?
Okay.
Yes, we powered through several episodes.
Here's the only thing I know. The only thing I know,
yeah,
because it came up on my wife's TikTok feed.
Interesting.
Is that Lana, the robot cone that controls everything?
You already know where I'm going with today's episode. Yes,
Lana has dark Lana this time, which is like
it's not dark Lana. It's bad Lana.
Bad Lana. Sorry,
it's just bad Lana.
Bad Lana who lets them break the rules and wants them to break the rules.
Yes.
Okay.
It's toxic. Yes.
That's the only thing I know. Go ahead.
Okay. This show has no business being as good as it is. It is a show where after the first, maybe second season, they had to start tricking contestants. Because the first season or two, it was like that. It wasn't a thing, so nobody knew about it.
Yeah.
But then it was like people wouldn't sign up for it, so they thought they were signing up for another hot horny show.
Right.
And then the funny thing is,
the first
Lana
two
comes out.
seasons filmed like back to back. Like the second season was filming already prior to the first season actually being out.
And then they would get like more outrageous fake show ideas. And spoiler, this season doesn't do that. This season they know they're coming in blatant defiance of the show's premise. They're coming in like, yeah, my family nominated me, but you know what? You can't tame me, Lana. I'm gonna be losing some money today. Like they're blatantly going,
that's insane.
They're going in to go like, I'm gonna blow as much of that 150,000 as I can. They just don't care. And they go in and everybody's like, yeah, this is great. We should, are the rules in effect now? And then this Knight Rider ass bad Lana comes out, right? And now Lana has like a robo voice, like an Alexa voice. Like he's like, greetings, participants. Human, but like still a little whatever. Then bad Lana comes out. And bad Lana's like, hey there, my sexy little minxes. I swear to God, I think her catchphrase is sexy little minxes. No amount of preparation is going to get you ready for that. It's going to be, hey there, you sexy little minxes. I'm going to get you all bothered. And they're just, and it's either rules free or other gimmicks. But anyway, it's like somebody tells you you could do whatever you want, but that doesn't mean they know it's not permanent. So it's one of those things where it's just like, okay, yeah, we can do whatever we want, but that doesn't mean that the regular robot isn't watching, and there aren't repercussions for your shenanigans.
Yeah. See,
and as
I assumed there would be some sort of catch.
Yes, and the thing is, this show once again should not have like character growth, and should not have the production value and just show development that it does.
Yeah.
And it do be doing. And it is and I'm just there in awe of this. We got a cool offer in the thing. But as I always do, I watch something and I go, how could I turn this into something that I can shoehorn into our show? But then it started to spiral into, I had to not text you at like 2:30 in the morning, because then it started turning into like This went from like a gag to wait a second. It was the other day where you were like, hey, do you want to talk about this? And I was like, yeah, I got something real stupid in my head, but this was the stupid thing kicking around in my head, and now's the time to talk
Excellent.
about it.
Can I? This is absolutely going to be the focus of the rest of the episode. We are absolutely going to talk about whatever nonsense you are
Uh-huh.
teeing up here. On the topic of shows on Netflix, have you seen the Decameron?
I saw a thing pull up of it.
We
That,
started watching that last night. It's freaking very funny.
Oh god, Shanice saw and she was like, "Oh, you're probably gonna love this," and I was like, "Are you think?"
It is a lot of the vibes of like, imagine Bridgerton.
I
But,
literally told her that.
yeah,
I literally
no.
told her that.
So imagine Bridgerton, but imagine everyone in Bridgerton is dying of the plague.
Yeah,
and it's like dialed up the comedy levels and of things. It's got like a little bit of some weird humor. I'm really enjoying it.
I
so
literally
far.
told her, she's like, I think it's a comedy, and I was like, it looks like it might be like a Bridgerton, but if they had COVID or something like that, maybe.
It's the Black Plague.
Yeah, no, I see that,
Yeah,
but like
yeah,
I
yeah.
saw something about plague, and then I was like, I think this is supposed to be funny. She's like, yeah, it says comedy. I was like, this is like Bridgerton, but if they had like to deal with a pandemic, I think.
It's very funny so far.
I was like, I saw it from just like plague and like the screenshots, and I was like, I think this is what this is. Next episode will be how do we make plagues funny, but how do we make plagues funny?
I think it's too soon to try and make plagues funny, honestly.
Oh well, real plagues. Anyway, God, man, that was bad.
Real plagues.
We're here about horniness today.
Yeah.
But I was like, okay, the idea of, as GMs, we are the arbiter of the rules. We keep things on track. We are supposed to be on the side of the players.
Yes.
And to out to handle the behind the, not the behind the scenes premise, but like the Lana's motivation is she's trying to rehabilitate these hot horny people. She wants them to have meaningful connections and know
they're too hot and too horny for their own good.
Correct. And you can like have meaningful, deep conversations and connections without just being hot and horny the whole time, right? And
they said it couldn't be done.
It's like a weird dating show because it's like they're pairing people off, and then at some point they always introduce hotter, hornier people that their point is not even to like care about the money, but to just be like, I'm gonna get as many rules broken as possible. And then everybody else is like, oh, I was doing so good, but now the horniness is reawakened. No.
Yeah.
So like that's like the point where she's trying to rehabilitate them, and if people like check out mentally, or if they break too many rules, like it's like, you're going home, you're leaving my retreat. It's supposed to be a retreat.
Right. She's very much a like, if you're not bought into this program,
correct, it's like a program you didn't sign up for. Yeah, exactly. And then I was just like, these brief instances where like this chaos robot comes in and just says like, no rules for X amount of time, or some other things that I don't want to spoil, but just like other things that are clearly in defiance of that, bucking that. And there's nothing that Lana can do. And then I was like, how would this work in a game where there's an instance where you can tell the players, when XYZ happens, you can do this, that clearly bucks the limitations or limits of what's set forth? Or this is where because that was like, that's something that can be like workshopped, and this is where I had to like, kept me up at night. How would you go rules free? Would it be Bugs Bunny level bullshit?
You take off your glasses, put on a pair of sunglasses, and you're just like, I'm bad DM. And when
Yeah,
I'm in
like,
charge, the rules
is
don't
it like
apply.
the rule of cool is the cool, like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like that's actually a good way to put it. The way you did that right now, it would be a really great way to signify, like, you take off, if you don't wear glasses, you need like reading glasses or fake glasses for this. Like, you're there the whole time,
I don't know.
and
If you
then
don't wear glasses, it's just one less step. You just don't have to take off your glasses. You
I
just
guess
put
that
on
makes
a
sense.
pair of glasses.
They need to know something happens though.
I've got
But
my
yeah, but
I've got my regular baseball cap, but when
oh,
I'm
you turn your hat
I just
around,
turn
yeah.
it backwards.
Oh shit, he's edgy as hell. But yeah, something to signify to the players, this means XYZ. And I don't want
Yeah.
it to be like, oh, a natural one or a specific number. It has to be something else. But some sort of thing where it's like, oh, we can do this. And it could be almost like a wild magic situation. Everybody rolls and like this is the thing they can get away with, maybe like a table of like
Mhm.
allowances. Um if I was doing this, I think the crazy thing would be uh a table, but like one of the options is like rule of cool prevails, and it's literally like if you can describe it dope enough, it's just what happens.
Mhm.
But then it's like, okay, but I have seen there is an art to mixing realistic, or at least pseudo realistic, fantasy, uh with like hyper nonsense, where it's like there's like a gag character in something, and it's just like only when that gag character is on screen is it acceptable that this is happening. This is
Mhm.
not like a norm of the world, it is a norm of that character type of situation.
Yeah, you
So
almost
there's
need some
it's a
sort
delicate
of
balance. Yeah.
you need some sort of like trickster demigod type
Yeah.
entity, some Loki type person.
Yeah, when you have the green
Who's
mask on, you can like defy logic and you can
yeah.
get into some shenanigans.
Yeah.
But I thought of like having a good DM, bad DM like turn is really cool. And I saw, because everything influences me and I don't have original ideas. I was watching a show. I watch a YouTube show called Drawfee, where they like
Yeah.
do drawing
Yeah.
challenges. Their challenge was they set a random timer from 30 seconds to 5 minutes, and they would hit go. Whenever they hit go, it was 30 seconds to 5 minutes. And whenever the timer was done, they have to switch whoever was drawing.
Yeah. It's
And
like
I
that
just,
TikTok like painting thing where like couples will sit down and
oh,
start
okay.
on two different paintings and they swap paintings.
Oh, okay. Uh, so I was just thinking like that's how I would limit the shenanigans, because it's like Bad Lana's not
Yeah.
always on the screen, and when she's there, she doesn't have like unilateral forever powers.
Right.
Spoiler: I have not seen Bad Lana take over the show. It's a weird collaboration, like like Good Lana. It appears almost like this is gonna help me make you stronger.
Right.
I'm gonna see your worst, that way I know how to make you better. Like it's like the whole thing is like this robot, this Alexa cone cares about you.
Yeah.
Even though their voice doesn't really show that. Trophy. So one, if it's just a this is the dumbest thing, we can't make this work, but then that's it. But entertain the idea of what if we relinquish control of a game and
Right.
go,
Ginny,
it's bad DM
we're
time.
not in the business of saying, this is a bad idea and we shouldn't make this happen. We're in the
Oh,
business
what are
of
you talking about?
this
I
is
do
a
that all the time.
this is a nonsense thing and let's make it.
There
I
are
already
so
have
many things that I'm
mechanics
like,
to
this is a
pitch you.
terrible idea. It shouldn't be happening. There's plenty of things that I'm like, this shouldn't be happening, unless you're like me, a masochist, and I only feel the rush and thrill of living when someone challenges my brain to think of the borderline inconceivable, where it's
Yeah.
just like, all right, you've created a situation that a normal person would be like, oh, you can't just do that or have to think about it. And I'm like, go, the brakes are cut. What are you gonna do? I
Yeah.
feel alive. That's what I want. What would you do?
Can
Yeah.
I pitch you a mechanic here?
Oh, pitch it to me.
I think we haven't pushed this far enough. I think the average game, the average GM will have a pretty neutral, like, rule of cool, rules as written, like they kind of do both, right?
I'm taking out a notebook, yeah.
I think there needs to be two alternates. I think there needs to be somebody who's all rule of cool and somebody who's only the rules as written. And it's if you go one direction, it's just like, oh yeah, what do you want? Anything you want to do, everything's on the table, like just everything's wild and silly and cool. And the other direction is, no, I'm sorry, you can't actually drink that potion as a bonus action. That's not rules as written. I know that's a table rule. That's not what the books say, though. You can't do that. All of a sudden you have to be very specific about, okay, well, yeah, I know technically the lines of a cone would be able to intersect, but the way a cone goes out from a base, it actually wouldn't hit that square, so that doesn't work. Like getting really meticulous on the rules as you go as
So
well.
when is the baseline the written one, or is the baseline whatever you are, and then whenever a switch happens, it becomes a hyper version of one of those two
I
extremes?
I think the majority of GMs are
Mm-hmm.
in between the
Yeah,
two. So
yeah.
it goes both directions. And here's the mechanic I would pitch.
Uh-huh.
Nat 20s, nat 1s. On a nat 20
Okay.
or a nat 1, you roll a percentile, and there is a set percentage chance that this happens. If you roll a nat 20 and you roll the percentile and it gets it, you get
Mm-hmm.
turned into the like rule of cool area. If you
Mm-hmm.
roll a nat 1 and then the you get that percentile, it goes into the rules as written area, where it's like, I will only follow the letter of the law here, and going just by the book. um and I would even do it where that like number you have to hit on the percentile, the range increases as you like
Okay.
the more times it is rolled without hitting it, so that you are more likely to hit it. So
Almost like
like,
you're fueling that side.
yeah, so like maybe and the more times you hit it, or the more times you roll it without hitting it, the longer it lasts when you do hit it, and also the range to roll and get it increases. So like just using a percentile, if we say like to begin with, it is like 90 to 100. And then if they don't get it, cool, the next time a nat 20 is rolled, it's now 80 to 100. The next time it's 70 to 100. And the when it does get hit, the amount of time you are in that mode is also directly connected to how many times it has been rolled without hitting it.
I do like that. I think that d- duration is going to be a thing where how I like the idea of, if it is it sucks because the one thing, like uniformity and having it so like the players can just predict and understand, that's where people feel most comfortable and they feel they can really play in the space. And unless they're chaos goblins or like really like into like the unknown, what I'm going to say is like going to be a turnoff for like half the people.
Hmm.
But I almost feel like if it were to be like
Oh, I mean,
the good
as
what
as with anything we do, like
yes.
you need player buy-in
Well,
for
well, there,
this.
well, yes, there's player buy-in, but then there's like only certain types of players. You know what I mean? There's something where it's just like everybody says it's cool, but this can like a lot of people can enjoy X, Y, Z. This
Right.
is going to be one where if it is like the strict one or something like that, imagine like this only lasts and you dictate like how much time, right? Maybe dependent on like the trigger ratio, whatever it is, right? Um, but I almost want to say, imagine that the cool one, because I feel like that would take place in the realm of vamping and just fluid storytelling,
Hmm.
that it would be almost like you set a timer, like
Yeah.
a literal egg timer, or you just go like, all right, y'all have an undisclosed amount of time, or just like you have 2 minutes and 37 seconds. What's happening? And
Mhm.
then they could, I think a clever player would be like
It goes into like
montage.
bullet time. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because then you're just gonna say things. It was like, all right, montage. The king dies. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, like, because you're giving them like whatever
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
power here. Um, and then if it's like good rules is written, it's just like, okay, this for the next every action you do has to roll. And it's like you have to do like almost like you have to be like it gets no crunchy with rolls constantly.
Mhm.
Because it needs to be enjoyable in some way. It can't just be punishment. It's like, oh
Yeah.
man, it gets real crunchy, but like we triggered something. We triggered like a
Mhm.
mini game almost in the thing where it's just like everything is a roll now, but like it's like very specific rolls. So it's just
Mhm.
like, all right, sharpen that pencil. And it's just like, oh, it gets tedious. I hate rolling this guy, but I at least get to roll math rocks.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know? Uh what do you feel how do you feel durations would be handled for something like this?
Oh man.
Because tables are going to be like a godsend, and I started writing things down because I'm like, this is God, I really want to make a lot of things we're talking about happen. So it's like this is one of those like this
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
one of those this is one of those this is one of those put people, you put down hey, pay what you want, and people pay 99 cents for this table. So this is our next moneymaker, man. This is it. This is how we're gonna do it.
Uh,
This is all. I need the money, man. We need to do this. So
I
what do you
think
think?
I don't know. So I think the duration needs to be tied to I like duration being tied to how long it's been since they last triggered it. Just because that ensures that like if it's been a really long time since they've had the opportunity to use it, it is gonna come up again. And when it does come up again, it's going to be like uh beneficial to you. The problem with uh the problem with either of these is that they are going to immediately uh either bog things down or drastically speed things up. So timing becomes very weird. Um I think for me it is a difference of are we in a role play or a combat type thing? If we're in a combat type thing, I almost feel like rounds of combat is a better way to measure it. Because if we're like, okay, uh 10 minutes. Okay, is that 10 minutes of game time or is that 10 minutes of like in-game time? Is that
Mm-hmm.
10 minutes of us sitting here talking? Because like if it's 10 minutes of us talking and we're in combat, I've seen turns that have taken 10 minutes. Like the so you could have one person who has now used up the entirety of that time. Um it really depends. You could also do it if we want to simplify it, maybe it's not an amount of time, maybe it's a number of things they get to do.
Mm,
Like how a uh like speak with dead, you can ask this many questions, right?
mm-hmm.
Maybe it's a you get to do this many things, and that could be as a like as a group you do this many things, individually you're going to do this many things. Like it really depends on what people want to do, but just kind of give everybody the opportunity to interact with it. um
I also wonder, you brought up a good point of like combat versus role play,
mhm,
and I the first thing I jumped to, and you were like, oh well, that means they can do this, and I was thinking almost like setting like genie rules, where not it's a literal genie, but something to the effect of like you let the players know I'm giving you a potential like crazy amount of freedom or potentially taking away a bunch of freedom for you. But here's the limitations for it both ways.
Right.
You can never have all your freedoms robbed of you. I'm never going to take away your agency. Like, if
Mhm.
you roll this and you trigger the bad one, it doesn't become you have to follow my plot. It doesn't have to be like it's almost like there's like a safety tool in either direction type of thing. And then if it's like the chaos crazy one, it's like you can't make my dice buttery so I can't roll against you. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't like it's like there's a
Yeah.
limit to what we can do. Um what do you think are fair limits in either direction? Because I
Ooh.
think considering them like that, and that could be something that is explained in game with exposition, or just like, hey, session 0, we're talking about this, getting everybody's buy-in. I want to do this mechanic.
Mhm.
This is how it could work. And these are the protections in place going both ways. I can never XYZ this to you and punish you this, whatever. You want to bend, twist, whatever my rules. And then the other way, you guys can get away with a whole lot, but you can't just, you know, decide the whole thing is now, this. Or change it so dramatically where now we cannot progress.
Mhm.
And then it's like if you agree, sign this Apple agreement that we're gonna have here,
Yeah, yeah.
and then so now you guys know, yeah, that's awesome, but you can't literally, like, are we gonna let you punch them to the moon type of thing?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it really is a case of like, even if you're going and leaning into this sort of like I'm the bad GM. I'm the crazy, like, off the wall, like everything goes sort of energy. Um Even a GM who is really into the, like, yeah, you can do whatever you want to sort of thing is not
Mm-hmm.
gonna probably allow the, like, oh, I punch the bad guy in the face and, like, he dies in one hit. Like, the okay, I mean,
I would probably
that's
allow that, but then it has to be like, okay, they triggered it at that moment, but can they? I hit him so hard, his entire family died. Then it's just like, oh, okay. You know what I mean?
yeah. Yeah, yeah.
I let you do the Kill Bill whatever thing. Hey,
Right.
you rolled it.
I'm
You got
talking
it
about
strategic.
the, like, the big bad, like the
Oh,
end
this would
campaign boss.
this would be no. I would allow that. I would allow them to Kill Bill, heart punch him. Because it would be something like they'd have to somehow trigger it right then.
Mhm.
And then it almost becomes, how like you're always leaning forward hoping for like a natural whatever to like change the tide,
Mhm.
like, and you wish that upon them, but there's also something that players love that is so satisfying of going, I took this thing you worked so hard on and I
Yeah.
turned it into a squirrel.
Yeah.
And so you're like, oh yeah, you can't do this to big bad. I was like, I think, like, I know I wouldn't. No, you're right. I wouldn't want that. But I think a player would love to just be like, all right, I'm gonna let fourth finger death punch Vecna real quick,
Yeah,
and it
yeah,
just canceled his mana lines, and I hit his phylactery accidentally, and it's just like he turns to dust.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
You did it.
I I
You done did
throw
it.
I throw my boomerang so hard and it just flies way out of view and it cracks his phylactery, which is 3 states away. Um,
Oh, I think it's just like, all right, we're here, we're fighting, but can we? This is how I would do it. We're fighting, we're all that, but can we like zoom out the window and through
mhm.
the underbrush and around to the boomerang I threw before we got in here? It's been flying this whole time,
Yeah, yeah,
and it
yeah.
finally
Do the,
hit
like,
its target.
cutbacks and
Yeah,
flashbacks and
that's
stuff.
how I would abuse this
Yeah.
situation. I was like, I threw that shit before I got in here. I don't know if anybody ever seen Black Dynamite. That's a Black Dynamite reference. It was just like,
Yeah.
I threw that
I
shit before I got in here. Ha!
Yeah, it's like like, I blow my war horn and the Black Ops team who I had hired to, like, be on the roof crashes through the skylights. Um let me pitch you something else.
Hmm.
Um what if you tie this to the story? You make this in a mechanic that is intrinsic to the story that you are telling.
Mm-hmm.
And the story is about a trickster type god who is like unraveling reality slightly around people. And so they have marked groups of adventurers so that reality will sometimes just kind of like unravel around them, and it lets the adventurers do crazy stuff, but they have done this because it is a like, I'm going to sow chaos. And they know that a group of adventurers can only go so long with the ability to do crazy things before
Mm-hmm.
they start doing crazy things that are going to cause more problems. And so the campaign becomes, you need to like track this down and stop it, because as more of this unravels, it is like hurting the fabric of reality. And then you take that and like you have a full campaign of the players getting very used to these moments where like they can do whatever they want and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that, but when they get to the fight with that person, they don't get that anymore. And he benefits from that thing because it's been him making all of that stuff happen to begin with.
Mm.
So all of a sudden everything reverses and the players are locked into like very strict mechanic stuff. And he is doing the like bullet time crazy things.
Okay, I do like this. I wonder if this could be almost like a branch off. Because up until this point, I was thinking about it one way, and then I think that this can make for one of those. I have seen modules come out that they have a mechanic, and then they have the campaign or story that go with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I almost wonder if there is a way to develop the system, the mechanic, and it's one of those things like, hey, you can shoehorn this into whatever you're doing, and then if it's like you want to do a literally the top of my page is just like I drew like a good versus
Yeah,
an angel and a devil thing, but like
yeah.
you do almost like a good DM versus bad DM campaign.
Mm-hmm.
um and like that, like you can make certain things make sense and also have those expansion moments.
Mm-hmm.
Because if like, oh, yeah, this is when it triggers, and then here are the tables you can use if you just want to do it. But then having something happen where it's like the way you described, they have it, whatever, and then during this fight, this challenge right here, the power shifts,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's like they got to reclaim. Oh, I don't know why I imagined like almost. Have you ever played Mega Man?
I'm familiar with it.
Okay, there's always like 8 robot masters, and it's like the bad guy, in order to
Yeah.
beat the bad guy, you got to defeat the 8 robot masters. And as you defeat them, you gain the like, I defeated Cutman, I have the power to throw scissors. um but just imagine like uh there being levels to it, and it being that you you you're using this or whatever, and then there's a fight where it changes or something like that, and then you have to beat it to almost get it back, or uh restore balance, whatever it is. But
Mm-hmm.
like a lot of times we know the flow of the progression of the story, and we know like, all right, there's these stages, or like this is where the end's going to be. But players don't, and it's
Right.
part, they don't want to, or it's just like, how are they supposed to know? But like doing a setup where they know how many they have to beat, or they know
Mm.
how many, like whatever the situation is to restore. When you get close to them, the things trigger more. They're gonna
Yeah.
it goes in their favor, type of thing. Whatever thing it is, whether it's an item that like, you can go a Inuyasha route and there was like one gem that controlled all this. It was shattered and split to a bunch of pieces. And if normal people find a piece, they have that embodiment of the whatever. Almost like a piece of Vecna type of thing too, where it's
Hmm.
just like, oh, so and so has a hand or an eyeball, so they're able to like siphon off some of that power type of thing. Uh so it becomes either a collection situation or like a restore balance type of thing, but
Hmm.
then it gives like a trackable uh like goalposts. Uh
Hmm.
but then also like they get to enjoy the mechanic throughout the game, and then there's like they have that thing to look forward to. It's like, yeah, we know to expect the unexpected or whatever during, but then even that gets flipped on its head during these fights
Yeah.
where
What
it's
if
just like
you
it's not the same. Yeah.
right? You could do it almost like pulling from like Lord of the Rings. You have
Mhm.
like Sauron makes the rings, and like
And then they're
gives the
lords,
rings
the
to
lords
the
of the ring.
yeah, the
You
lords
have to
of
tell
the
me.
rings, uh but gives them
Is
to
this a
the
new
people
show?
and then makes you're the worst. And then makes like their own ring that like controls the other ones. So you could have like the trickster entity who is like in charge of this, and then they have the same number of like uh commanders under them that
Mhm.
are like they have the same number of them as there are party members.
Yeah.
And then each of those people has an item that lets them do this like manipulate stuff around them.
Mhm.
Um, and then you do a like, okay, the party is hunting down these commanders, claiming those items. Each time they claim one of those items, the party unlocks this new thing. You could have it stack. So instead of doing the thing where, like, if enough time has passed, then it like increases the stuff. You instead do it where it is a uh like we'll say it's whatchamacallit. We'll say party of 5 players, right?
Mhm.
So with one of those in the party, there is a 10% chance that every time they roll a nat 20 or a nat 1, it'll go into this like crazy like bullet time space.
Mhm.
With 2 of them, it's a 20% chance. With 3 of them, it's a 30. So you would like have a larger chance of that happening.
Mhm.
um and then so they are like becoming more and more powerful, but also more and more reliant on this
Mhm.
as they are progressing through the story, and they're like taking out these different commanders. Then when they get to the actual like boss, it's kind of flipped on its head where like he still has control of those things. Like he can still make those things happen. So now, because there are 5 of you that have these items, and there's a 50% chance that when you roll a crit a nat 20 or a nat 1, you go into the bullet time. It's instead when you roll a nat 20 or a nat 1, there's a 50% chance of like the rules must be followed to the letter of the law for you.
Mhm. I wonder if for the letter of the law situation where it I don't know if this is something that would have to be like on they're aware of it type of thing,
Hmm.
written down type of thing, or more of like just so almost like a guideline for whoever is doing this, how they know how to play it. Because if you're playing a game, you're usually, even if you're a ride down the middle kind of person,
Hmm.
you know, oh, okay, now you're being harder on the potions thing. You're being,
Hmm.
but like I think a player could very easily like just like tap dance around that.
Hmm.
I wonder if it's like almost like, all right, DM, when you become a hard ass, you need to question everything and just you need to now not only be stricter on like what's written or stuff like that, but be stricter on stuff that you know is you have to like really like stretch. You have to like
Mm,
go hard on what can I like you're looking for a fine type of situation. Like you almost have to
hmm.
become kind of mean with it, where it's just like, okay, you're going, you're trying to run. Can I look at your character sheet real quick? You know, you weren't really tracking encumbrance.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if you could move that fast.
Yeah.
And it's
You're
almost like it
carrying
becomes like a tax audit
You have
where it's
6
just
sets of plate mail in your inventory. Like you're over your
y-
encumbrance, you're moving. Have you had this for like a while? You've had this How long have you had this in your inventory? I'm gonna give you 3 levels of exhaustion. Um
like something where it's just like, okay, you're doing all this stuff. Hey, can I just ask you, it says here you have a canoe. Where do you have that? Where do you just curious, where do you have that canoe?
you've been dragging
So
that
you
with
but
you?
you have that canoe. You have that
Mm.
canoe though, right?
Do you have a
Okay.
license for a canoe?
Oh my god. Oh my god, giving them a fine for a canoe license.
You have
Um,
you have just out of nowhere, like somebody just runs up and like hands them a fine for like their warhorse is out of date on its shots.
Shots, yeah,
Um
exactly.
uh
It's almost like it becomes bullet time both ways, where it's just like,
right.
all right, bullet time, awesome DM. It's like, what can you like? What kind of cool stuff can you make happen? And
Yeah.
bullet time, other DM. This is an audit.
Right. Maybe
It just becomes like,
it's less about the like the actual rules of the game in that bullet
mhm,
time. It's more the like the intentionality behind the bullet time. So it goes into bullet
yeah,
time either way.
hmm,
But instead of it being bullet time that was like working for the players, it's working against them. And like other things are happening. Um, that's fun. I like that. I
so
love the concept of like it says here that you have a battering ram, not like one of the small portable ones. You have like a full-size battering
like a
ram
siege weapon. It
in
says here
your
you have a siege
inventory.
weapon. Yeah.
Yeah. How are you
How are you going about
transporting
that?
that? Yeah. I had to go into great detail with a party recently because they were using a bag of holding and trying to like shove things into a bag of holding that like shouldn't really fit in the bag of holding. Um and they're like, "Okay, well we'll just put it in the bag of holding." I was like, yeah, so the problem is the opening of the bag of holding doesn't really stretch all that much. So like
Yeah.
you can put it in, but like everything would need to get through that opening. And at the time they were trying to like dispose of a body, so they were going to put the body into the bag of holding and transport it with them. But it was like a larger form. And so they couldn't get it in the bag. I was like, you can't really get it through the opening. It's like pulled the body out and like started like chopping it
Hmm.
up to be able to put it into the bag. I was like, this is gonna be absolutely disgusting the next time you need to get something out of this bag of holding. The I like a frustrating bullet time. Like there's something very
A
funny to
frustrating
me
bullet time is good. Yeah.
about a bullet time that is like, I okay, here's bullet time. You have access to it. You're gonna do crazy things. However, every attempt to do crazy things is just kind of thwarted by Looney Tune logic style like craziness that comes up.
Hmm.
Like um in a regular bullet time, you're gonna be like, oh, I tried to go, I was like running, went off the cliff and like realize it and kind of like skid to a halt and like turn around and get back onto the cliff, versus
Hmm.
the like negative bullet time of like I ran off and then there's just like the sound of an anvil falling as I like plummet to the ground. The I like the I've used the term Looney Tune logic a lot in
Hmm.
different games that I've ran, because it's a very understandable concept to most players. They like kind of get the vibe right away. I think that's a good way to play this, of like both both Elmer Fudd and not Daffy Duck, Bugs Bunny, kind of use this sort of same chaotic Looney Tunes logic.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Roadrunner and the Wile E. Coyote both use the same like logic, but one of them is benefiting from positive intention of it, and one of them is affected by negative intention of it. Of like
Mm-hmm.
a Bugs Bunny could sit there with a lit stick of dynamite in his mouth, like pretending it's a carrot for
Yeah.
20 minutes. But like the moment Elmer Fudd is like, give me that, and like takes it, and Bugs is like, oh yep, okay, and just like walks away, it's gonna blow up. Like
Yeah.
it's that sort of like duality of that hammer space bullet time cartoon logic.
I like that. I like that like comparison. That's good.
Um,
That's how that's how you always want the way that people can wrap their head around it.
mhm.
So it's like whatever gets them there, then they know how to, you want to say exploit it, but like play in the space.
Yeah.
Uh
You could almost do if we move away from it being strictly a like good GM bad GM sort of energy, um you could almost do it leaning into that cartoon logic and create like different things that they gain access to when
mhm,
that energy triggers, of like, okay, for the next however long you have access to bullet time. For the next however long you have access to hammer space. For the next however long you have access, insert whatever.
mhm.
But like you are able to pull from that sort of like crazy cartoon energy
Well,
to
here's the
do
thing though.
things.
I think we're getting too far away from the spirit of this original
That's
prompt
fair. That's fair.
of
Of
this is a
too hot to
normal,
handle.
like to like a, or be it being horny and sexy. So we need something, because now it's just becoming
It
like
was kind of an
chaotic.
intentional move for me.
I know, but no, because we're already chaotic. That's not bad. That's just
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that's not like there's no change in that type of
Hmm.
thing. It's almost like even if we remove the sexiness of it, there needs to be something that goes like the players feel like they're definitely getting away with, like, this isn't like this should not fly. Like this is
Hmm.
like just something inherently naughty about it. Where it's just like, hey, if I give up like a first level spell slot and a second level spell slot, could I use a third level spell?
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Something where it's just like, can I? And it's just like, no, you're not supposed to. It's like, can we be a little naughty and just say
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
equals up to 3? Something where it's just like, ooh, we're just blatantly disregarding the rules
You
here.
just
Uh,
you give the party as a whole like a set number of like times per session that they can say the phrase, "Can we be a little naughty?"
yeah, you know what I mean? Like,
To
it has to
trigger
be
a
something where
like,
it's just
let
like,
me do some nonsense.
where it's just like, okay, uh, because then it becomes like, if it's the default's the good one, whatever
Hmm.
everybody signed up for, you know what I mean? That this is the experience they signed up for, and then it becomes a let's get a little naughty type of situation, because I think we came up with like tables and triggers to help it make sense mechanically, right? And that's
Hmm.
what this is what I was running into, like in the fever dream of 2:30 in the morning, going like trying to make it make sense, because this is how somebody would mechanically try to make it make sense, right?
Hmm.
But if you just go, instead of like it being you trigger good or bad, you are good, you are default. What does triggering a bad look like? How do you control, ration out, mitigate
Hmm.
an intentional disregard to you?
Right.
How do I put rules and limitations on, giving them the power to say and do whatever they want to me?
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, what's the safety word here? Like what? How do you? How is that something that's not really doable unless you're
Mhm.
like with best friends? Is it something that's just like, hey man, you'd only do this if it's just like you don't want it to like it's I'm trying to think of like a good example where it's just like you do this knowing like there is no good way to do it. It's just you doing it just to be ridiculous. Or
Mhm.
is there a way to like go like, oh no, if you do it like this, at least they can never XYZ, but you can still do it and then give them that fun. Like when I give inspiration, I always give inspiration where it's they can use it for themselves or they can use it against me. Where it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
okay, if you see me rolling for anything, or if you know I'm gonna roll, you can tell me to re-roll, and that can be
Mhm.
your inspiration type of thing. Is there a way to like make this kind of like an advanced version of that?
Hmm.
Right? That's where it gets trickier, because I'm just like, yeah, we're making this make sense, but it's just like, wait, what if we just how would we create a system to allow them to not listen to me or do what they want?
Yeah.
Because it is kind of cool to go like, all right, I'm gonna give them. It's like, all right, you take a kid to the playground and then you go do whatever you want, and then it's kind of like, all right, taking them to some place where there's rules, and it's like, all right, you can do what you want, but make sure you're taking your shoes off before you get into this, and there's rules. But then
Right.
when it's just like, it's like, oh yeah, no, we're here, you can do whatever you want, then it's kind of like, I can do anything. I can just
Mhm.
go on that thing, or I can go over here and do this. It's like, yeah, obviously we're still in the park. You can't leave the park, but yeah, whatever's here, you can go play on that, go do this, flip that thing. What would that look like? How is
Hmm.
that possible? Because then it's like a natural 20. Is it like a mote of good luck, a mote of like you do that like almost that chronomancy type of thing, or it's like almost like you can what do you call it? Like the wild magic thing where they can kind of like tides of fate type of situation where it's just
Mhm.
like, okay, you got a natural 20, like almost like giving them like a mini tides of fate where it's just like, make something else happen. But then it's
Mhm.
like people want to roll and we do
Yeah.
want to make it so like that, but then it'd be cool if it's like, all right, we rolled once, it happened, now this is happening. What are we gonna do in this space, this time? Is it a time
Right.
limit? Is it a time frame? Like, what would that look like?
Yeah. Oh man. I do
Everybody,
not know.
we rolled like we hit our three natural 20s. Everybody's now wearing sexier versions of whatever they were wearing before.
Yeah.
Armor class is still the same. It's just everybody imagine yourselves and then imagine sexy versions of yourselves.
Everybody has a magical girl transformation.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Um oh man. Yeah, there's so many different ways you could go with it.
And does it like, is it something that like we said before, almost like it happens and everybody can take advantage of it, or is
Mhm.
it like the person that triggered it gets to use it type of thing?
Yeah. Well, I mean, going off of the like inspiration parallel, you could do it where a uh you gain a point that you can use.
Hmm.
And then like it doesn't have to be in that moment. It is a point that you
Hmm.
can use at some point during that session. I think all points go away at the end of a session. There's no rollover. But like
Hmm.
you can use that point at some point during that session to do something cool. And it could be in a moment where like you are already doing something and you want to make it cooler. It could be in a moment where like you did something that didn't quite work and you really want it to. It could be in a moment where like the GM has done something and you want to foil them. Like and it is just this little warping of reality of like, okay, so that didn't happen. What happened
Hmm.
instead? And just kind of giving them that sort of narrative way to do it. Um, and then you could also have it just be a situation where, okay, if you want the stakes to be a little bit higher on something, or like it's a particularly difficult enemy or something like that, if somebody's like, I want to do this thing, you could be like, okay, you can do that, but it's going to cost 2 points to do that. Do you have 2 points? If you don't have 2 points, like maybe somebody else in the party has like an extra point that they could throw at making that thing happen. Um, it takes it a little bit down a level in terms of
Mhm.
the just like okay, now we're in crazy town, like let's do some nonsense, and makes it a little bit more shifting the mechanic focus to a narrative focus.
Mhm.
um it would just have to be a situation where you were like very okay with things like that happening. I
Uh,
think if I was going to do something like that, realistically, if I'm tying it to a nat 20 anyway, I would probably make like um nat 20 hits are uh are all just regular hits. Like they're gonna do
mhm.
max damage, but they don't do any like additional or like double the dice or anything like that.
Mhm.
And so it's like nat 20 is a hit that did very well, but you get this thing. And now one is like you missed, but there's no like additional negatives, and you get this point. The To kind of like make nat ones also a cool thing. um but if you wanted to then spend that point you're getting right away to be like, oh, but I want to do extra like cool stuff with this thing, you could.
I I was looking at this one thing that I mentioned before that I like that as class features and stuff were coming out, they were using proficiency. They were doing a lot more. You can use XYZ,
Mm-hmm.
your proficiency modifier +1 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and so it's like, okay, I'm not tied to like, oh, I only have one in this, so I can only use this, whatever. It's like you get a few extra uses. Um, uh, Characters like players like feeling like, it's always good to feel like you're the main character.
Mm-hmm.
And it would kind of be cool if almost you made it seem like either somebody, if there's a warlock, a cleric, some sort of higher power, whatever the situation's giving, triggering this ability, the source of it or whatever, like favors them so much that like they're watching over them and
Mm-hmm.
almost like wants them to do better, and wants to exaggerate these moments. And I just thought of like, what if a proficiency bonus plus the party number, where it's like if they're all level 2 or all level
Mm-hmm.
1, it's that, it's 2 plus there's 5 of them, so there's this many points. And then rolling a natural 20 in the same way of like they get to choose. You
Mm-hmm.
can go like, how cool do you want this to feel?
Mm.
Because then it's like if they roll a natural 20 and it's a hit, and it's just like I'm gonna do damage or something. I was like, how cool do you want this? Then it's like it could become that cinematic rule of cool, like you chop that guy in half and the guy behind him type of thing, where it's like
Mm-hmm.
that's that extra craziness.
Yeah, you bring
But
in
then
like
it can,
cleave rules and stuff like that.
yeah,
Yeah.
but then you can also trigger it during like a persuasion check,
Mm-hmm.
where it's just like, you're like trying to get into this club and you
Yeah.
roll really good, and it's like, how cool do you want this to be? It's like, I want this to be as cool as humanly possible. Like
Right.
I want it. And it's just like, okay, the bouncer is just like, listen, you're not on the list. I'm not going to be able to do it. And then a hand taps him and it's just like, step aside. I'm the owner of this establishment. I heard you. I think you're dope. I know what? I've been wanting to get rid of the place. The club's yours. And it's just like, what? We tried to get in and couldn't, and then we got the club. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I
Yeah.
didn't see that coming. um, and then if like, the players that are a little more descriptive, maybe they'll be able to be the ones to get away with like describing the thing, and it
Mm-hmm.
gives them that like they're being bad spicy feel to it. It's like, ooh, what if I got the club? uh but do you find that when it's a trackable resource like that, it's used more or forgotten about?
Ooh. Um it
Inspiration points, pool of
Yeah.
luck or whatever, you know what I
in
mean? It's real easy to,
inspiration I think gets forgotten a lot.
yeah, because I
Or
know you've done
it'll
different mechanics where like there's there's pools of things or
Mhm.
something.
Yeah,
So I feel
one of my party currently has a magic item that gives the party a resource of essentially luck points.
mhm,
And so the majority of the time those are used. It's just a reroll. It's not a like anything crazy. But like reroll the thing. Um the the majority of the time those get used. The problem becomes, when do you recharge those?
mhm,
Are those a resource that is recharged like daily in game that the
mhm,
party has to keep track of?
yeah,
Or is it a session thing? Is
mm,
it a like every day you have access to this many? If you go like a long time, like you're gonna have a hard time with it. Um, or do you go by um
rests,
like a long rest
yeah.
where like you took a long rest, like you're recharged, or is it a like okay, it's a new session, it's a new day, like you get the stuff.
I think it'd be really funny if the way it's in game explained is because time moves so funny for whatever the being is
Mhm.
that it's session based
Mhm.
because that's how long they were watching you,
Mhm.
and then they went to go take a leak or something like that, and then they're back, or like they paused and then they came
Yeah.
back, and like you're their favorite show and you are their too hot to handle, and
Mhm.
they like to like watch you in sessions. And so it's just like it's the same day, but I feel like we can do a lot of stuff right now. And it's
Mhm.
because it's a new session for whoever's like in charge of this.
Right.
Like a good hand wave for that.
Well, it could also be if you wanted to make it per session, because I do like a per session mechanic.
Mhm.
Like I think it's just easier to track. You don't have to worry about like, wait, did you use that in the fight last
Yeah.
time?
Yeah. Mhm.
Especially depending on how long like is between your sessions, like that can get exhausting quickly. Um, the what I think I would move towards would be a per session, and the rationale is uh anytime they are reaching out to this like pool of energy, they never know if they are going to get a result from it.
Mm.
It is like assuming that you are making it a like a resource the characters are aware of.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're making it a resource that just the players are aware of. It is not a character thing.
Mhm.
And so the players know that like this many times per session I have access to this. It's not a thing that the characters are ever aware of. It's just like it happens around them. Because
That's
like
an
you can
interesting,
make the
yeah.
argument that something like a halfling's lucky ability, right? A halfling doesn't know that they have the ability to re-roll a die. They are just lucky. Like they didn't almost fail and then choose to roll again and succeed. They never almost failed to begin with. Like things just kind of worked out. So you if you go that direction, I think a per session mechanic works well because it is a resource for the players to make sure that this one set like session 3 hours, right? We're gonna sit down, we're
Mhm.
gonna play this game 3 hours. The like these are the things that are gonna happen. You're gonna make the choices. At during that 3 hours, you have this many points that you can use to like make something really cool happen during that to make sure that you are hitting those beats where you are like doing something awesome. That you walk away from that session feeling like you had a cool moment. It's a good way to make a character feel like a hero. Because I know I've had as a player, and I've also watched my players as a GM have sessions where like the dice were not with them, where like everything they're rolling just not working. I had a
Mhm.
player I had a player in the course of a 2-hour session had rolled 10 nat ones.
Oh my god,
Yeah,
that's
it's
really
a
unfair.
it's a miserable session when that happens. It's like
Uh,
one
I,
nat
I've
one
s- I
every
have
like
seen.
12 minutes.
I think 3 nat ones back to back was the most I have seen in person, and I was like, whoa.
Hmm. Yeah, it was a an unpleasant session for them. I think like they ended up switching from their like the dice on D&D Beyond to physical dice because the dice on D&D Beyond were just like, nope, you're not gonna roll well. I had another session. I run a game for the other members of the team on Start Playing. And in that one, one of my coworkers rolled over the course of I think we do 3-hour sessions for that game. Over the course of those 3 hours, their combined total for like including modifiers for all of their rolls through that 3-hour sessions was under 20.
My god.
And it was like, it wasn't nat ones, but it was single digits for
Mm.
like every roll they made. Like if you give the players a resource that they can spend to make things cooler, I think that is a good mechanic to have. And then you don't have to worry about it being a like, okay, well, I have like 3 times per day that I can use this like these luck points to re-roll things, and I have to track those each day. Make sure that they're all, because characters have enough like different things that they are having to keep track of. If you give them stuff that they have to keep track of, it's either going to be determined that it is important or it's not, and it's going to be forgotten if it's not.
I like the you brought up something where it's like the player knowledge versus the character knowledge
Mm-hmm.
and how those two can like play very differently. And I think that's something I feel like we gotta go. But
Yeah.
like there's a whole like section I wanted to kind of dive into with that because there is to tease it, I guess. I wanted to go like, do you? It's like metagaming, but also, do you lean into it, like and ask players beforehand what kind of thing, what kind of game they want to play when it's like that,
Mm-hmm.
or do you let them decide? I'm trying to think of how to word it, but it's one of those things where they'll do it without realizing it, but then do you create a situation where they can choose one way or the other? You know what I mean? Like this is something they're aware of and something they're not.
Right.
And they choose because I feel like if it's something where it's player knowledge, then it's they might feel more like they're in charge of the story
Mm-hmm.
because instead of like the DM making all the choices, they're making these story pivotal moments. But then
Mm-hmm.
if they're more immersed, they want the DM to do it. It's more of like, oh, my character doesn't know that type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
You have a lot of that's what my character would do kind of situations. So it's like setting those up and which like when to do that. So that's something we can explore some other time.
Yeah.
Um, but we gotta go. We're over.
Yeah.
But we'll come back to this because it's still not sexy enough. But I think we can get there. Almost like a sexy fighting game mechanic where like maybe certain roles, certain clothes just fall off. We can do
Pass.
this. You could or you can roll the dice. Mm,
Pass.
uh
Uh,
Hunter
um,
fell afraid of sexuality.
have a great weekend, everybody. We will be back next time. And if you are headed to Gen Con next week, both Junie and I will be at Gen Con.
Mhm.
Come find us. We will be around.
I'll be at the Norse Foundry booth if anybody wants luxury dice. I will be there, and you can say you got some nice dice from me.
There you go.
There you
And
go.
I will be somewhere. I will be
He'll be around.
wandering a lot. Find me. I will probably be posting on Twitter where I'm gonna be and stuff like that if anybody wants to meet up and say hey. Otherwise, have a great weekend, and we will see you next time. Remember to embrace the nonsense. Later, y'all.